What's up, everybody? Welcome back to more rSpace. With update. Am I the a-hole for refusing to look after my 26 male roommate's 25 female cat while she is on a 3-week vacation? My roommate loves cats. She'd like to have a dozen, and if it was up to her alone, I have no doubt she would have at least several cats. About a year ago, after she kept bringing it up, I finally relented and let her get a cat. The reason I say let is because we both have to agree. If one of us doesn't agree, it's not allowed by the landlord. On to the story. My roommate informed me she was going to go on a vacation with her family about a week ago. Nothing more. I just said, okay, and made conversation asking when she was going, where she was going, usual stuff. That brings us to yesterday. She starts running me through the types of cat food I should give her cat, how often its litter box needs to be cleaned, what the number of the vet is, and at that point, I just stop her and ask why she is telling me all this. I was plain confused. She looked just as confused and told me she was just telling me stuff I needed to know since she is leaving on Monday. I just told her that I am not sure what she is getting at, but I sure hope she is not assuming that I am going to take care of her cat while she's gone, because that's not happening. Cue a full-blown panic where she starts tearing into me about how she assumed I wouldn't mind taking care of our cat and how she doesn't have time to find someone else. I retaliated by saying, it's her cat, I got nothing to do with it, and suggested she houses him in one of those animal motel type deals. That was a no-go, and she has since been crying, panicking, arguing, and begging about it. I obviously can't help but feel bad. The vacation is already paid for. A cat motel is really expensive, especially on short notice, and she doesn't really have friends who she can ask. On my side, it's less so that I do not like cats, which I don't, and more so that I think cleaning up after her cat is disgusting, and I don't want to be forced to look after a cat that can't sleep alone. He will meow all night if she doesn't let him in her room. Talked to my girlfriend and some buddies about it, all of whom agree to some extent that I should just watch the cat this one time. Update. Didn't take me long to make an update as I decided to talk to her today. Thanks to everyone that responded. I did a lot of thinking, and a few comments in particular struck a chord. Here and there, people pointed out and put a link between her behavior now and her behavior when I agreed to let her have the cat in the first place. Pushy, manipulative, and consistent asking, demanding until she gets her way, coupled with what I struggle to describe as anything but tantrums. I started realizing that in the time we have lived together, that's pretty much her go-to when things don't go her way, and the only reason I didn't really notice before is because I do not socialize with her much, at all. She tends to only really exit her room when she needs to cook, wants something, or goes to work. So I initially decided I needed to sit her down, put down some boundaries. I also decided I was going to, albeit reluctantly, watch her cat for the 3 weeks until the conversation happened, that is. The moment she sat down, she immediately talked over me and said, "I hope you reconsidered since you put me in a bad spot here." It surprised me, and I told her she put herself in a bad spot, and from there, she went into tantrum mode. I barely got a word in the entire time, and she was just switching between demanding I change my mind, lying by saying we got the cat together so it is my duty, begging and borderline insulting me. I lost my cool and told her to have fun figuring out what to do with her cat, as I ain't helping, and walked off. I did a bit of thinking and came to the perhaps rash decision that I'm going to inform the landlord that I am not renewing the lease. Finding a new place in the month and a half I got left on the lease shouldn't be difficult. I always got a couple of buddies to fall back on, and while it may leave my roommate in a crappy situation, I doubt she can afford the place on her own. I'm kind of done caring. Even aside from all the issues described above, I just realized I don't like living with her. Every roommate I've had, I get along with. It tends to be fun, and we become friends, or at least friendly. With her, well, she is at best boring. I mean, like I said, in all the time we have lived together, I'd hardly call her an acquaintance. That's just not the sort of person I want to live with. So there we are. I haven't informed her yet, and I won't until I contact the landlord. Couple reactions. First from St. Olvis. I kind of hope you eventually show your roommate this, and she gets to read how very, very close she came to having you agree to cat sit before she drove that truck straight off the road. One other comment from Mike Noble 91. Bad roommates are the worst. I'll never live with roommates again. Glad you're getting out. On to the next one. Am I the a-hole for buying my 23 male girlfriend, 19 female, fake perfume? I, 23 male, have dated my girlfriend, 19 female, for a little under a year now. I've come to love her a lot, and my love language is gift giving. My girlfriend has always been the type of girl that's just hard not to love. She's the definition of magnetic. Guys always approach her, and understandably, she's a high caliber girl. She could easily be anyone's dream girl. Looks amazing and everything about her is feminine, down to her hands and how she comforts me or makes me food. She has an expensive look to her, but she does all her self-care herself and is amazingly cost-efficient about it. As a result, the kinds of guys that go after her are usually trust fund babies or are highly ambitious, med school, law school, business startups, things like that. Despite herself not being anywhere in that tax bracket. This isn't her fault because I've seen myself that she never entertains anyone, but she just has that effect on people. It makes me feel like less of a man because I'm nothing like those guys, and honestly, it makes me feel like a bum. One day, while walking past her computer, I noticed that she was looking at a designer perfume, and I told her I'll get it for her. She's adamant that she doesn't want me to get it for her, and that she was just kind of daydreaming about it. She's literally never asked me for anything, but I wanted to show her that I can take care of her and spoil her too. I look into it, and the perfume is $300 freaking. What the F? I don't see the point in something like that, but honestly, my pride would be hurt if I went back on my word. So I found the perfume for much greater value on eBay. Today comes, and I gift her the perfume. She unwraps the present, sprays it on her hand to smell it, and her face is a blank expression, like she's trying to decide how to react. I ask her what's wrong, and she gives me a hug and a kiss on the cheek, thanking me that I wanted to get her something nice. I don't know why, but it made me feel like crap. I was expecting a much bigger reaction. I kept pushing her as to why it seems like she doesn't like her gift, and she tells me that she loves the idea, but is obviously fake. I feel like this was an extremely ungrateful thing to say, and I called her a brat for even caring if the perfume is fake or not. I also said that she's materialistic due to the fact that she could supposedly even tell it was fake by merely looking at it and smelling it once. She says that it's dumb that I made a big show about getting it for her if I was just going to do this, and that what I got her is nothing like the original perfume, that it couldn't even be considered an imitation. I think it shouldn't matter because I practically still got her the perfume she wanted. I just didn't drop $300 for it. This is making me see her in a different light. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Too long didn't read. I got my girlfriend a fake for a $300 perfume she wanted. Apparently she could automatically tell it was fake, and it made her look really materialistic and ungrateful. Am I the a-hole for getting her a fake? Let's see what they say. Rowan Ever says, based on your subsequent comments, this is how I'm now imagining the sequence of events. Her idly looking at the computer. I will buy you that thing. No, don't do that. It's too expensive. I must. Away. Charges off. What? F. It's $300. I'll just buy this cheap $30 knockoff. She'll never notice. Haha. I have brought you the thing. Thanks? Sprays, sniffs. Nearly dies from the stench. That's, wow. You don't like the thing? No, I... Discreetly coughs up a lung. I love it. Thanks so much. What? It's lovely. Hacks. You're not glowing and telling me I'm the most wonderful person you've ever met. My suspicions are raised. Very raised. No, you're amazing. You stud. You damn me with faint praise. I spent $300. Seriously, you're so, You don't like it, do you? Well... Spit it out, woman. I think maybe the seller ripped you off. It might be a fake. How dare you impugn my buying skills? They're legendary across the galaxy. Oh, so that's why there's a hint of Uranus. You materialistic brat, fetch my dizzy couch. I am fatally wounded. Edited ad. Oh, wow, zoiks. Thanks so much for the awards, folks. I'm glad my ridiculousness gave you joy. Also edited to add, you're the a-hole, in case that wasn't clear. BG Graphics has a thought. You're the a-hole. You didn't practically get her the perfume. You told her you'd buy the lobster and took her to McDonald's. She was still grateful, and then you got angry that she wasn't grateful enough. If I was you, I'd be apologizing ASAP. The last thought from The Devil's Joy. Most of the time I'd say, it's the thought that counts, but you literally 100% tried to make her think you bought this specific perfume for her. I'm 10,000% positive that she knew what the $300 perfume smelled like, and that this faked perfume smelled nothing like it. She wasn't being materialistic. She knew it wasn't the real perfume based on the scent, and she was still appreciative and thanked you for it. You decided to be an a-hole and pressure her for a, why didn't you give me this huge jumping up and down smile? You gave her a knockoff. It smelled nothing like the real smell. She thanked you for it. It wasn't the reaction you wanted, so your pride is trashed. That's on you. Grow up. Next up, Am I the a-hole for using my inheritance from my grandpa to retire my dad instead of paying off my husband's debt? My husband and I are in our late 20s. My dad is in his late 40s. The inheritance was left by my deceased mom's dad. My father remarried after her death, and now has 3 kids with my stepmom. She stays home with their youngest. I've moved out. My personal goal was always to retire my father since I started my career. That's been the plan. He left for work every day, whether he was sick or had broken ribs, every day. He worked 2 jobs when I was younger. It meant that I didn't get to see him hardly at all. But I knew he was only doing what he had to do in order to put a roof over our heads and money in my college fund. The year I left for university, he had fallen off a ladder and broke 2 ribs out in the field on a Friday, but waited till he got off to go to the ER, and went into work the next Monday. Didn't ask for workers' compensation or time off, just sucked it up and went back into work. That day I told myself I was going to retire him as soon as I could. So when my grandpa passed his inheritance to his only living biological grandchild or child, I used the money to help make sure my dad would never have to work another day in his life. Now, my husband has a massive amount of student loan debts, along with some credit card debt. He is upset because I didn't use any of the money to pay off his debt, a lot of which was accumulated before meeting me, and give what was left over to my father to retire on. But truthfully, the choice between husband's debt and the promise I made to myself before I left home about retiring my father wasn't really much of a choice. This was something I had to do. Edits. Just to clarify, my dad was against the idea of immediately retiring, but that was my intent. I'm so glad he can now, and not be living on poverty. It's liberating knowing his future will be a comfortable one. I understand not everyone can relate to this feeling, and that's okay, but I'm so glad he's set. It was quite a bit of money, even after the tax, so I'm sure it will last, and if not, he'll always have me to fall back on. I'd just like to say I now believe I should have paid off his debt and given what was left to my father, if I could do it over, but my husband understands, or so he says. First reaction comes from OF Megs. Not the a-hole. Not just because it's your inheritance and your choice what to do with it, but also because your dad has already hurt himself once at work and he's only getting older. At this point, you're not just helping your dad retire because he was a great dad and you love him, but also because you're concerned about his safety. It's a bummer that you and your husband will have this debt hanging over you, but you're still young enough to get it paid off. It will all work out. Next thought coming from Chicken Fight Your Mom. Hold up, let's do some math. Those student loans can't be more than $100K. More likely they're around $50K, give or take. The inheritance amount is not enough to both provide for OP's father and also pay off husband's student loans. That means the inheritance is not much, definitely not enough to retire a 40-year-old man and provide for 2 adults and 3 children for 20 to 30 years. That's why I'm giving you pretty sizable, you're the a-hole. OP's husband's debt is going to affect her too. They may not qualify for a mortgage if his credit is trashed. Plus, what about talking it over with your spouse before you rush to spend it? Aren't you partners? Did you do any planning around this? What about your own financial stability? What if one of you becomes disabled and your household income is not enough to sustain you? What if you want to have children and need to fund their college? What happens if you lose your job? Those are just a few of the questions OP and her husband should have discussed before she decided to retire her dad, whatever that means. Story time. My husband received a very sizable cash gift from a relative 2 years ago. Not enough to retire, but it was a lot. You know what he did? He asked me what I thought. We talked about options. We decided to sit on it for 6 months while we sought out an advisor. We weighed our own needs alongside the needs of some of our close family members. Here's what he didn't do: disregard our joint financial goals and then make a unilateral decision to just give it away. I understand why OP's husband is losing his crap over this. OP just ignored him. Edited to add, I just learned from another commenter that the inheritance is 7 figures. My hot take? OP's husband probably needs to start planning a life without her because she obviously doesn't care about him. On to the next one. Am I the a-hole because boyfriend's family wants a contract to protect him in this house? So I'm buying a house. I'm in closing now, waiting for the attorney's office. House and finance is solely in my name. Bank won't allow otherwise. My boyfriend's family, since he is moving in with me, is all upset because his name can't be on the house. He has 0 credit and couldn't be on it anyway, nor do I want him on it. They are trying to see if an attorney or something will contract something even away from the bank where if we break up, he will get his money back he puts into the house. My attorney already said they will not do that, so now they are wondering if an attorney not associated with the deal will contract something. They can't do this, right? The house and deed and financing is solely in my name. He has nothing on it, but if he puts money into it now, I have to be held responsible for paying him back in the event of a breakup. He already said he isn't moving into a house where his name isn't on it, due to the immense paranoia from his past relationships. Am I the a-hole? Ask and you get answers. Stormy Weathers 321 says, not the a-hole, and your boyfriend's family sounds controlling as hell. It's your house. If this is going to be an issue, don't let him move in. Give him back his $500 and tell him to rent his own place. Real Wandering Wizard chimes in. It's not smart for the boyfriend to be potentially paying off half the mortgage on a house for years when he would walk away legally with nothing if they split. They're not even ready to be married. Edit. For those of you saying that this is the same as rent, yes, that's true. Homeownership has long-term advantages over renting. OP's boyfriend is not being ridiculous for trying to not be in the renting position here. My judgment is not an a-hole. OP is trying to cover her butt, and the boyfriend is trying to cover his. If this was a married couple, most people would expect them to share liabilities and assets. The boyfriend is not being ridiculous and wanting some kind of parity. Maybe the problem here is that they are trying to start a new household together without actually being committed to each other. Last comment coming from Lola M1224. No. At best, you can give him a lease as a tenant and charge him rent and utilities. That way, he has no claim to the equity in the house if you break up. Not the a-hole, but if you think this will be an issue in the future, don't let him move in.